Hey there, Mike again. Welcome back to the shop. Who remembers this scene?
What you doing?
Count to 10.
Stop it!
What?
What's that about?
Just shut up and count!
1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
10.
If you don't remember that scene, it's because you haven't seen The Fifth Element. That is actually one of the most memorable scenes from the film because it involves Chris Tucker screaming extremely loudly for a long period of time. It also involves this, the Mangalore Grenade. Now, the Mangalore Grenade is one of my favorite props from The Fifth Element because it is quite ridiculous, actually. It's a hand grenade with spikes on it that are spring-loaded, and you'll recall he pulls it out of his sleeve. I don't have the sleeve right now. Turns a little timer and says count to 10. And then 35 seconds go by, and it eventually explodes. It has lights in it for some reason, because grenades are normally have lights in them. But I love its appearance. I love everything about it, because it's everything you want in a sci-fi prop. It's ridiculous, but at the same time, just absolutely wonderful looking. And this is one that I made, actually finished up yesterday. This is a real parts prop in so much that it can be. This prop consists of a potentiometer knob from the 1990s. That is actually a potentiometer knob called the RS Components 509973. I'll go into that a little bit later. Some spikes, which may have been machined aluminum, but may also be the bodies of fountain pens. I'm not entirely certain. I can't get a solid answer on that. A mini-mag flashlight, which is what this body is, that goes about this far into the body. And then bespoke ball and body, which they're machined aluminum. And this one, I'm not sure, may be putty. I'm not 100% sure. There's sadly very little information available about this prop. But I wanted one, I think, largely ever since I ever saw one. And fortunately for me, Thingiverse user S. Glasser created a really beautiful 3D model of one, which I printed out about a year and a half ago and made one using a 3D printed potentiometer knob, because these are quite frankly unavailable. They are very, very hard to find. And over the last about year of searching, I've managed to come across a couple dozen of them at this point, which doesn't make it sound like they're rare, but they were very expensive. But yeah, this is my Mangalore Grenade, which let me show you how I made it. Now, this model came from Thingiverse, from user S. Glasser. Either way, when you print it, you end up, these are the parts that you get from this model. The two halves of the body, which hold together with these two pins, and then the ball, which is the end of the grenade. It's quite nice, actually. This little ring, which is a brass ring, and then some spikes. You get 8 of them. I went ahead and I puttied it together and added a nut to the end so that I could put it on a lathe. There's the easiest way to sand it to get it smooth, because PLA doesn't have a really good reputation for sanding, and I used a lot of filler putty on it to get it to be just right. But here it is after the fact. It's quite shiny, as you can see. I sanded it down to about 12,000 grit, and then it just polishes up beautifully, truth be told. And I'll pop the nut off of it here shortly, and then it'll go into a mold, because I want to make some copies of it. So using Lego, I created these molds, and I'll cover how I did that in another video. Now, I said that this ring was brass, and I'm actually using this Rub and Buff gold to get that color. So, and then you just apply this like you would any other Rub and Buff or wax like this. Just rub it on. And then once you've got it coated on there, just take a cloth, or in this case a shop towel, and polish it up. Wear gloves while you're doing it. It's best. Now, I have some fresh gloves on here because you'll transfer it quite easily, but I need to paint this thing, or rather prime it. So what I'm doing is I use this little cotton swab so I can hold it. I'm using Spaz Sticks Chrome Black as a base for the metallic. It helps the metallic kind of pop a little bit more. And the color that I'm using is actually Dark Aluminum by Vallejo. It's their metal color series for airbrushes. And I went ahead and I put a coat of it on there and then attached everything together. The flashlight is just a mini mag, a AA battery mini mag. But the ball is done. The body, I still have yet some work to do. But what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to rub and buff the body over top of that dark aluminum and then graphite lubricant over that to give it a bit of a shine. And again, same deal with the other rub and buff. Apply it like you would any other wax. I use my glove as a little bit of an easel, but that way I don't have a huge amount of it on my finger. But just go over the entire model. I just went over the entire model with rub and buff. And then once that was cured up, I went back and polished it. Fresh gloves, and then go back with a rag and polish it up. Polish it up to your heart's content, truth be told, because there is a stopping point where you can't polish it anymore, but it gets pretty shiny after a little while. And there you can see it's starting to shine quite a bit. And now the graphite lubricant. Graphite lubricant's a great way to mimic steel, but I wanted to put a little bit of darkness onto the body itself, just a little bit, and then primarily I used it in the flutes to give a bit of a shading to it, because otherwise it would have just been flat colors. Now the spikes themselves, this one is one of the 3D printed ones. It's not a cast one. There is some supposition that these were not machined aluminum, that they were in fact pen bodies, like from a fountain pen. But the fella S. Glaser that created these models, he created a little peg here on the end. And these are just attached by these springs. Now these are 7/32 by 1 inch springs. They have a loop on either end, but all I did was cut off the loops. There it goes. And then they just thread right onto that post. After a little bit of adjustment, there you go. Now I went ahead and I painted these with that dark aluminum as well, because if you look on these pictures here, you can see that the spikes, they look like they're metallic, but they also appear to have remnants of what is called dicum. And dicum is a machinist dye that is blue. There are versions of dicum that will dry on plastic, but I don't really want to buy dicum because I don't have much of a use for it. I don't have any machining equipment right now. And I don't need to go buy another thing because I have a pretty decent substitute for that color. Oh, seen these before, haven't you? This is number D. I'm actually going to be using this burnt blue color right here, which I found out if you rub it over metallics in a rather, quite frankly, sloppy way, it mimics the effect of dicum. And I'm just going to use finger mark 1 here and rub it on quite liberally to get that blue shade, which you see is popping out there right now. And then that helps simulate the idea of dicum over aluminum. Again, don't know if these are actually machined aluminum or pen bodies. Not really certain. Now this is the last part, and this is the part that gave me the most grief. What this is, and I apologize for how shiny it is, they're just that highly polished. It is an RS Components 509973 potentiometer knob, ostensibly off of an oscilloscope from back in the 90s. They're a 10-position, 28mm potentiometer that have not been produced for about 20 years. And I spent a good year and a half hunting this one and the rest of them down that I have. I've since accumulated quite a few. But they are quite frankly rare as hen's teeth. And I had no fun. I found them in Australia, I found them in the Philippines, Japan, and it was usually 1 at a time, or on occasion it was 2 at a time, but they are quite hard to find, and it is the one part of this prop that is difficult to get your hands on. This part is also found on the ZF-1, apparently up by the site that's up on the top of it. I haven't seen a photograph of that yet, but that is apparently where it's at on the ZF-1. So this is just attached on the end just by a drop of glue. And here it is, all completed, all put together. The Mangalore Grenade from the Fifth Element. The base I created in Inkscape real quick and then just cut it out on the laser cutter. But it's just a real simple stand. There's the Fifth Element logo. Can't really see it that well against my spray painting turntable. There's the spikes. That flat side on those spikes, when it's in the folded position with the tube over it, actually creates tension that is supposed to hold it inside the tube and help the tube stay on this thing. And then these red acrylic rods, if you turn the flashlight on, if you put the batteries in it and turn the flashlight on, you can actually see light come through those, but it was never used in the film that way, so I didn't put any batteries in this thing to make it light up. And then when you see him, when he says count to 10, like I showed earlier, what he's turning is that potentiometer knob. Well, thank you for watching. I appreciate it. Please hit the like and subscribe buttons. Leave a comment below. Tell me what you thought of this. Consider Patreon. Consider becoming a patron to help support this channel so I can keep making these videos. And check out the links below to social media and to all the Amazon links that I have for all the stuff that I use to make this video. Thanks again for watching. Cheers.